Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Plant Fanatics. Sorry for my, semi-long absence. We've actually been working on a project which we're going to release to you guys here pretty soon. So stay tuned for that video. But today I want to talk to you guys about rooting fig cuttings and what's the best way to go about doing that just for your average everyday home gardener. So let's go ahead and get right into that. Alright guys, so you can see behind me here all of my fig cuttings that I've done this year. There's like 30-something different varieties. You can see they're all growing healthy and well. And it hasn't been very long, maybe a month or so. But the reason that I'm talking about these is because I want you to see that what I do works. I'm not just telling you guys to do something that I've never done before. So anyway, let's get right into it. So first thing that you're going to want to do is get some sort of container to put the medium in that you're going to be rooting the figs with. I like to get these party cups. You can get them at any of your local stores. And I just simply drill a hole in the bottom. The hole in the bottom is very, very important. If you don't allow drainage, then your cuttings are going to rot. There's going to be too much water going on in the cups. Even if you just moisten the soil beforehand, I still recommend having a hole in the bottom. Just as a safety precaution, you never know. Throughout the rooting process, you might need to water your cutting. If you don't have a hole in the bottom, you're not going to be able to do that. It's going to be very difficult to moderate how much water is in there. So get a party cup or any container you have lying around the house, drill a hole in it. The second step is we're going to need a soil medium. I highly recommend getting a seed starter mix from your local department store, Lowe's, Home Depot, any garden center. They're all going to have seed starting mix. I know it's called seed starting mix, but it's also great for doing cuttings. The soil doesn't have as much microbial life or fertilizers in the soil. So it's going to be great for doing cuttings. We don't want too much going on. Keep it simple and allow that cutting to root with the least amount of interruptions possible. If we use regular potting soil, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. You're going to get a lot of mold in the soil. If it's too moist, there's a lot of living microbes in that soil, which is great. A living soil is a healthy soil. But we want as simple as possible, and a seed starting mix is as simple as it can possibly get. It holds enough moisture to get that cutting to start rooting, but it doesn't hold too much moisture to the point where it's going to rot. So it's the perfect thing. I highly suggest doing that. Okay, and then the third thing that you're going to need, it's not actually necessary. A fig cutting is very easy to root. You can root the fig cutting without having rooting hormone. However, I highly recommend getting the rooting hormone because rooting hormone has anti-fungus properties to it, antifungal properties. It's going to keep fungus from growing under the soil on your cutting, and that's going to be very important in the health of a cutting and making sure that you get your chances of success way up. So I highly recommend getting a rooting hormone. I just use this Garden Safe Take Root. Says grow new plants from cuttings. It has the antifungal properties. It's a little powder, so I'll show you how to use that in a second. You can also use a liquid rooting hormone. I know a lot of people that use liquid rooting hormones. They don't typically just sell that at Lowe's or Home Depot. They tend to have the powder. So the powder is perfectly fine. I use the powder. I know a lot of people that use the powder. They have great success. And I know a lot of people that use the liquid rooting hormone. So if you already have that, then use it. It'll also do the trick. Okay, so let's get right into this. So if you're watching this video, you probably got some fig cuttings. They're going to look like this. You can see that's got a couple of nodes on it. Honestly, guys, you could just have a single node. And a node is just this little place right here where the leaves are going to come out. That's also the place on a fig cutting that's most likely to give off roots after you put it in the soil. You could literally cut just that one little node off and stick it in the soil, and it's going to root. Most people are going to give them to you in 2 to 3 nodes. Be a pretty good size cutting, although size doesn't necessarily matter. Like I said, they root very easily. So all that you got to do now is put your rooting medium into this cup, just like that. Pack it in there, not too much, just kind of tap it. And then you're going to want to just place a little hole in there with your finger. And you could even use, your cutting before you put any rooting hormone on it. And you just want to get a nice little hole in there, because once you put the rooting hormone on, you don't want to rub it against all the soil. It might take off most of that rooting hormone. So after that, you're just going to take your rooting hormone. By the way, guys, it's not recommended that you just stick your cuttings into the rooting hormone for disease reasons. If there's pests on a cutting or something like that, you don't want to have it in the rooting hormone container. I don't normally do that just because I inspect my cuttings really well. I wash my cuttings. So that's not something that I worry about. But I do recommend that, the more precautions you take, the better in your chances of success in rooting. So anyway, you're just going to take your cutting and just stick it in there. And there's really it's not difficult. Just stick it in there, get a little bit on there. And it's that simple. Take your cup with your medium in there, and then just stick it in there as far as it'll go. And then just push around it. Get that soil going all around it. And then just take your little watering canister, and not a lot of water, guys. Just a little bit. Just coat the top of it. It doesn't even have to necessarily run out of the bottom. You don't need that much moisture in there. You just need a little bit. And there you go. That's literally all there is to it. You can leave it just like that. I know people that have success with that. I highly recommend that you put a bag over the top and then put a rubber band around it to hold the bag in place. What that's going to do, especially if you're in the house and not in a greenhouse, is provide much needed humidity to keep that fig cutting alive. Like I said, it's not necessary. You're just going to have to watch that medium a lot less if you have a bag on it. But then there's a catch-22, because now you got to watch for mold. I'm going to have another video. It's very common if you cover your cuttings to get mold. And it's not the end of the world. Like I said, there's going to be another video. I'm going to make a video on how to deal with mold. Very commonplace in plant propagation. So there are ways to deal with it. Don't freak out. But I do highly recommend putting a bag over it. And just because, a fair warning for you guys, just because a bud opens up and new growth comes out of it, doesn't mean that there's roots down below. If you can get the clear cups, the clear plastic cups, that's even better than this. I've been rooting for a really long time, so I know that when growth comes out of here, that doesn't mean there's roots down below. And I let my cuttings sit for a long time before I do anything with them, because I know that roots take time. It's not quick. So just leave them in there, be patient. But if you get the clear cups, you're going to actually be able to see and watch that root development. You're going to know when there's enough roots in there for you to finally remove that bag off the top. I highly recommend that you don't just rip the bag off the top, because especially in an indoor situation. So I'm in a greenhouse right now. The humidity is already high in here. I don't even have to cover this cutting at all. I don't have to worry about it, because this is a perfect plant growing environment. If you're in your house, the humidity levels are going to be much lower, and plants don't like low humidity. They can deal with it, but for cuttings and stuff, it's really not good to have low humidity, which is why I recommend that dome. You're basically creating a greenhouse effect like what I have right here. So once you have that covered, just watch it for mold. But besides that, there's really not much to it. You're not going to have to water it because that bag's over there. I would keep an eye on it, but I highly doubt that you're going to have to water it throughout the whole rooting process, which can take from 3 to 6 weeks. Depending on the variety, it could take longer. The biggest thing is it's a waiting game. You have to be patient. Anything in plants takes patience. It's not going to happen overnight. It's like anything. It's like going to the gym. You're not going to get muscle overnight. It takes time and persistence. So just be persistent with it. Keep an eye on things. And don't freak out too much. You know, in nature, these things happen naturally. Nobody has to sit there and watch over it 24/7. I'll admit, I myself will come into the greenhouse and I'm like messing around with things because I want to see if there's roots, but you really don't have to do that, especially if it's been a week or two. You're probably not going to see roots, but I know it's just kind of like Christmas Day every day. You want to walk out there, you're so excited, you want to see roots. But that's all there is to it. Just watch everything, make sure everything looks good. If you see mold, there are ways of dealing with that. Check out my other video on that. Besides that, it's that simple, guys. Just do what I've told you here, and you're going to have great success, and just be patient. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Check out all my other videos. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.